Hey guys, Matt, IronTrap Garage, and we are giving you guys a little update on what we're working on this week on the free T. So I got the body all under plastic and it has been teasing me like crazy because I can't get in to work on it. We'll actually assemble it, and we have this shiny body, we have a frame that's all nice and smooth and painted, and we're not quite ready to assemble everything even though I really want to. We need to start breaking down some more suspension parts, and steering parts and different things, get them cleaned up, get them sprayed in the rust encapsulator platinum, and then hit them with the 2K satin chassis black, just like we did the frame. Same process for all of the suspension and steering parts to keep everything kind of muted. So I'm going to work on this week. We have Andrew's coming over to give me a hand, so we're going to work on tearing down the spring and some of the suspension parts. We're going to try and get the rear hung on my paint rack. It's probably at the close to the max of what the rack can hold, but I think it'll be really nice to get it hung on there. We can just do a little bit more cleaning. Mike already kind of did a lot of cleaning on that, but we're just going to do some touch up, get it all prepped and ready to spray, and hopefully we'll have a couple of parts on this thing all sprayed up in a nice smooth chassis black soon. So let's get started. Okay, so parts are all dry. They're all dry to the touch here. Touch, touch, touch. Yeah, no, these are all good. These are the rear backing plates here that we saw us spraying. So everything's all coated with a nice heavy coat of chassis black. This is one of the tie rods. I just started grabbing things that actually fit on the racks together. This was the big boy. We're trying to get the rear end back together so we can put the rear end under the frame and start making it a roller. But you can see how smooth the chassis black laid down. Now my LED lights in the shop kind of give it a little glossier look than it is, but it is a satin. That's probably a little easier to tell there. Not a high gloss, just kind of nice muted satin finish, which is what I wanted on the suspension parts and the frame. We want that all to kind of disappear or not be a focal point, and we want the body and the stainless pipes and stuff to be the focal point. So came out real nice. Didn't do anything real crazy smoothing the rear or anything. I'm planning on eventually putting a quick change in the free T. I have a old Halibrand quick change I can put in, but or actually a center housing, but with time I want to drive this thing this summer. I'm gonna probably end up having it built over the winter or assembled. But yeah, there's a good shot. Now you can kind of see this finish on it. Looks nice. I think this will all look good under the chassis and match the body. I even sprayed a little bit, just dusted it in. I sprayed it with rust encapsulator platinum on the backing plates on the inside, and then I just dusted in a little bit of black. What's up, buddy? And just to coat it in and got it to wrap around, so that looks good. So the next thing I'm working on is the front axle. So we've been sanding the front axle for a little bit. Well, I've been. I decided to change front axles, and we had one that was dropped by Andy Kohler. For any of you guys that follow this stuff, Andy is a younger guy like myself that lives in the northern Pennsylvania area, and I guess north central maybe, I don't know. Anyways, Andy's a good guy. He has a jig he made up to do axles the old way, so heat and press and drop them, which is really neat. That's the axle that I had under the car originally that I got from a friend who abandoned a project. But I had this one that we did the video on recently that is an old like a taffy pulled and filled axle, and it's really killer. So it's got a nice, I like that the ends are really thin on it compared to like a 32 heavy or something. So really cool. But what it is this axle sat outside for a while under a car or something, and it's got some pitting in it. So I've been taking the electric polisher sander from Eastwood, which basically it can be used as a polisher to polish paint, or you can actually use it like a DA. So I've been using it like a DA quite a bit. I think we showed it when we were doing the roughing in of the metalwork and bodywork on the T body. But the nice thing about this versus a pneumatic DA is it doesn't run out of power. It just goes pretty much with the same force the whole time. It is quite aggressive, so if you put some 60 grit or 80 grit on it, you can actually remove some metal. So what I've been doing is I did some shots where I took a real rough, like hard sanding pad on my big aggressive old school Black & Decker sander, and I knocked everything down, got the rust off, and then I've been going with the DA and working it in. So I'm pretty much at the point where I'm going to do another pass or two with the DA, but there's a lot of pitting in this that I'm not going to get out just by sanding. So what I'm going to do is go through it and run little puddles of TIG. I'm going to fill with TIG rod some of these pits that are worse, like these ones right here. I'm going to show you guys how to fill those in. So what I'm going to do is you can either take a drill bit, or you can take a little carbide burr with a pointy tip, dig it in there to get out any of the rust or debris, and then you can start filling up the little spots. So I'm going to show you guys a little area here on this. I have a long road to go. I want to polish the face here and the top. And then we're going to paint the in the center section with satin black, but just to give a little bling to it. And then I'm going to polish it for now, and then hopefully if we have the time, I'm gonna have it chromed. If not, I might just polish it, clear coat it, and then have it chromed over the winter. We'll see, but I'm gonna work on it for now, and who knows, maybe it won't get nice enough and I'll just spray the whole thing black. But I'd like to get some of these sections shined up if possible, so I'll show you guys the process for that. Now the one thing you'll notice is that I'm actually keeping the sander on a pretty heavy angle, like this and like that. So keeping the sander at a pretty good angle. Now I'm keeping it flat on the surface, but this axle has a peak in it naturally, how it was made, that runs right down the center here. And you can accentuate this peak by the way you sand it. So we're sanding right up to the peak the whole time. So I'm leaving the peak pretty much alone, and we're just sanding on either side of it. And what that's going to do is give you a nice, beautiful peak in the center that kind of matches the peak in a 32 grill, which is cool. So it's a neat little detail. I've seen there's a gentleman on the Ham with Droppy Journal, the message board, that he has a thread on just him doing axles, and he does a lot of these, and that's one thing he does is leave the peak in there. I think it looks really cool. So I have this pretty much all sanded. I got most of the spots that were ghosting, I got most of them out to the point that I probably can get them right now. So now what I need to do is go in and find all the pits, and we're gonna start filling them up and working them out. So we'll work in a little area right here, fill some of these pits, and then show you guys how they smooth out with just a little bit of work. guys, so that kind of shows you guys where we're at, what we're working on this week on the free tee. We're just doing these kind of episodes of jumping around again because we are doing a bunch of stuff at once as we're trying to get the tee ready for assembly. So I also gave you a quick taste here of what we're doing with the front axle. This axle is an older one that I like because of has some history to it, but it has not been stored correctly, so it does have a lot of work that needs to be done to get it smoothed out, but that's part of the process. So I fixed some of those spots where you saw that I gouged it out with the carbide burr. You may have noticed when I was welding that I started the arc just off of where I wanted to weld and then moved it back because if you start right in the center, sometimes there is a little bit of dust or pitting of contaminants in that. And when you start the arc right on it, sometimes it'll spit at you. So if you start just off of it and then work the puddle into it, you can throw a dab of filler rod in there. I was running pretty hot around like 130 or 140 amps, but I'm in and out really quick. So I want to get in there, get the puddle started, shove some rod in. It fills up that pit even a little more than we need, and then we sand it down with the little flat disc I was using on the surface conditioning tool. And then I came back with 60 grit on the DA. Blended it all in and it all kind of disappears pretty nicely. You can level it out. So this area in here that I worked is already looking a lot better just by hitting those real big areas of pitting. It's starting to blend in. Now we still do have little dots of pitting, little shadows in there, but I'm gonna leave those alone for right now, and I'm gonna work around the whole thing and get all these major areas of pitting. Like if we look over back in here, the pitting is really concentrated and we can find the real deep pits in there and fill them up. But the difference between the area we worked just now and areas over in here, like what we started with, is a lot better. So I'm going to jump around, get the whole thing looking about that good, then we can come back and fill even smaller pits and keep working our way through. Some of these pits will sand out over time as you go through the different grits and getting it up to a higher luster. The shadows will kind of work out, so don't obsess over trying to get the shadows out early in the process because they may come out as you're working everything out. Right now, work on the really bad pits that you definitely can't get out, and then kind of work along the way. So that's all I have for this one. Hopefully you guys enjoy the updates on the free tee. We are getting closer and closer to putting it back together. I can't wait to see this thing all shiny and together. And again, if you guys have missed our update on the shows that we're doing for this summer, in July, middle of July, we are doing the Viva East show in Massachusetts. It's a neat little like rockabilly hot rod custom party in Massachusetts. Pretty cool. If you guys ever seen the Viva Las Vegas, it's like a sister event to that. So those guys are doing a really neat job there, and they asked us to come out and bring the free tee, and we decided it'd be a great spot to sort of debut it. So I am on a little bit of a time crunch with that, being that it's in middle of July, but we're hoping to bring the car out to that so that everybody can check it out. May not be fully done and running and driving, but it should be assembled and looking pretty darn cool. So if you guys are in the area and you want to check that show out, it definitely should be a good one. We're going to be hanging out there for most of the weekend. So that's all I have for this one. I appreciate you guys following along as always. So we do videos on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. If you haven't, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And all I ever ask is share it with your friends if you guys like this content and find it informative and fun. Just share it with a buddy. We appreciate all of the new viewers we've gotten. Thanks guys. Catch you later.